then we get into Sobs and Throbs.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, you want to start, Ravi?
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Uh, three, three of Meher, three of Meher Baba's favorite couplets of Hafiz, a mystical Persian poet, befitting a fortunate slave, carry out every command of the master without any questions of why and what. About what you hear from the master, never say it is wrong, because, my dear, the fault lies in your own incapacity to understand him. I am slave of the master who has released me from ignorance. Whatever my master does is for the highest benefit to all concerned. Hafiz. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
God, Meher Baba ki jai. Uh, Let's. So that's nice to hear. I think thanks for letting me know about the other reading that you mentioned. Maybe so it's 8 o'clock.
7 o'clock. No, 6:30 to 7:30
India time.
India time. And
Okay.
she organizes it, and she sends this Google Talk
Okay.
message
Hmm.
to, and then only four people attend. Who is that? Jayanti?
Jayanti.
Yes.
Yes.
Jayanti is the one. Vidyavati. Oh, Ranganath. Remember Ranganath?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
He attends. And
Okay.
then Himal also attends.
Lovely. Okay.
Himal. Kama was there one day, and he had some questions that make me doubt. He was question. One of the questions was why. I mean, Baba said something, and somebody else wrote it, and why are we reading?
Oh, okay.
uh, but I feel when I was reading see, I didn't understand it. So all the information in that chapters. So what I did was, for my own understanding, I created a PowerPoint presentation on the first talk. Talks are divided into 33 chapters, I think. Each chapter is dated, and the Baba was giving talks to the Premashram boys.
Correct.
So that was very profound. We know everything, but it's kind of little. I mean, we need to read like a couple times or two, three times before we understand the sequentially what he meant, and very, very nice. I loved it. Now that
Yeah.
I'm preparing a PowerPoint presentation, I'm not putting everything, but I'm just putting briefly so that, if we, let's say, I put out for you guys, and if I say these points, and then if you read it, then it makes sense. All those
So
read it.
some
Otherwise, it's
context
like,
for the
yeah, we
reading.
know this, we know this. Yeah, it's like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So have you presented that to the group, or you still working on
No,
that?
no, no. I just made this last few days whenever I have time.
Okay.
By the way, by end of this year, my job is over, so I'm going to be home unless I take up some consulting jobs.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
I'll be, yeah,
Good, good,
yeah,
good, good. Okay. So we stopped here in chapter two. If we finish chapter two,
great.
and
Yeah,
we are starting with chapter three. The
yeah.
subtitle of the chapter is The Hero, and this is where we get to know about Ali, right? So Ali is the
Sayyid.
main protagonist in this book, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
so let's start by reading chapter three. Um, any particular order you want to read first? Shall I read first? Whatever.
Yeah, go ahead, read.
Okay, so let me read for a bit. Chapter
Mm.
3, The Hero. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Just at this opportune moment, on the 20th of November 1927, one fine morning, two Mughal gentlemen arrived at Mehrabad, seeking admission for the boys that they had brought with them into the ashram. One of
Who are
them,
these Mughal gentlemen?
I think the parents of these boys. One of them was Mr.
Interesting.
Syed Haji Muhammad of Bombay with his son Syed Ali, the hero, who barely looked to have seen more than 14 summers. The boy cannot be said to be fair, though a pair of dancing brown eyes lend an air of distinction to his round face with a slightly flat nose, a broad mouth, and a prominent chin of determination. But his real charm lies in his manly movements, his commanding gait, and erect head. To put it in a nutshell, it is an old head on young shoulders, and the boy looks every inch a miniature man of action and determination. At first, the master refused admission, and he had good reasons besides his spiritual foresight to do so where Mughals were concerned. As early as the month of July, amongst the newly admitted Mughal boys were the two sons of a well known Persian educationist of Bombay. Before admitting these two boys, the gentleman in question was distinctly made aware of all the rules and regulations, the aim and object, and the general standard of living in the institution. He accepted all these after a personal, thorough inspection of the ashram and gave a solemn promise to abide by them. But within a few days, he offered to provide a special diet for the boys, saying that the food provided to them in the ashram was not satisfactory. The master was, of course, greatly displeased with this proposed breach of the ashram discipline and with the way the gentleman kept his word of honor. The boys were dismissed, and in the course of a remark with a very accurate foresight, the master conveyed, these Mughals are word breakers and not to be trusted. So he's talking about the Parsi. So is the word Mughal here to mean Muslim, or is it? It's not. I mean, we don't use the word Mughal to describe people who are contemporary, right?
No, I think the Mughal dynasty ruled for a long time, right? The people who are connected with that dynasty, they have some way of saying that we are Mughals, identifying them as Mughals, politically known. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know for the fact, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
You know,
Me neither. I don't know.
otherwise they would say Muslims, right? Muslim.
Muslims.
They are
Yeah,
just saying Muslims. Yeah.
correct, correct, correct. And in but he's including. He said Mughal, and then he's also talking about Persian, right? Two Mughal boys and
Persian
two
are different, right? Persian are Iranis.
Parsis. Parsis.
Parsis, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. But Ali's father persisted in pleading for a reconsideration of the master's apparently arbitrary decision, which was twice repeated by the master with an equal persistence. In the course of this parley, the boy did not fail to show his mettle. As if drawn by a subtle magnet, he seemed very eager to be admitted and began to argue his own case and try to reply to the objections raised against his admission in very intelligent and clear cut terms. An average boy of his age is bound to fight shy in the presence of elders and strangers, particularly if they happen to be the officers of an institution in which he seeks admission for education. This unusual pluck of the boy at once endeared him to one of the ashram officials, Mr. Kaikushru Aspandiar Afseri. In the third attempt for a reconsideration before the master, Mr. Afseri personally intervened and pleaded for Ali's admission in a very touching way.
I think
If
Afsari is the teacher, right? Afsari is the teacher.
so, there's also a Aspandiar who's a student, right?
No, Asfandiar, who is he?
Iranian. I think
Iranian.
I met the son, or I think it was the
No,
son.
Asfandiar, one of the Mandali, I think, right? Farud,
No, no, no. Specifically, I met an Aspandiar linked to the boys in the school, and I think it was the son. And he
son.
right now lives in the US. But originally, I think his father was part of the school. I
I
met him
see.
in Meherabad.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Uh, if ever the master, I'll continue reading.
Mm,
If ever the master can be said to have a weakness, it is this: he is powerless against an appeal from the depths of the heart of his disciples. And Mr. Afseri succeeded where the very angels would have failed. Ali was accepted and forthwith admitted into the fold of the blessed, the Meher Ashram. Of course, his father was explicitly acquainted with all the relevant details of the institution, the possibilities in spiritual and secular knowledge of the boys, and the cosmopolitan life led by them, and he readily gave his consent in writing to all the rules of the ashram, including the one that the boy will not be allowed to leave the institution until the course is finished or within 5 years in the least, without the superintendent's permission, which may be withheld for any period within the above limit without assigning reasons whatsoever. Wow. So, very
mm.
strict orders.
Strict, yeah.
The boy soon proved himself a noble character and pure minded and as innocent as a lamb.
Mm,
His, his tendency towards spirituality and attraction towards the master were spontaneous.
mm,
From the very outset, Ali was often seen sitting by the master whenever he could spare the time for doing so. He is not sentimental but very sensitive. The slightest reproach has been found enough to bring tears to his otherwise laughing eyes. Another fine attribute of the hero is that he is not talkative. During that daily spiritual discourse, he had never haggled over details or caused an unnecessary interruption to the speaker, but displayed a remarkable power of picking up facts and spirit of the subject in his own way,
mm,
sitting silently or looking here and there as if really preoccupied. But his apparent silence and childish fidgeting did not mean absent mindedness or disinterestedness. Whenever abruptly asked by the speaker to explain what he had heard in the course of the discourse, in 9 cases out of 10, the boy would give a remarkable account of all that he had heard, coupled with his own comments on the subject distinctly and freely, or in the 10th case, would say outright, I did not understand.
mm.
These particular traits of his silence, restlessness, fidgeting, once made the class teacher cry out, Ali, you don't seem to follow me. What did I say now? And lo, the boy rattled out the whole passage that the teacher had just quoted, almost word to word.
Wow.
Because of this very good memory, Ali seldom has to cram. He generally remembers facts and meanings by hearing and reading them once or twice. His progress in the school is no less brilliant. The day following his admission to the ashram, he was examined by the school authorities thoroughly before being put into the fifth Persian and fifth English standard of the school. Within one
First
month,
English standard. First, not fifth
oh,
English.
I,
Yeah.
what is that?
Actually, I think you said fifth Persian and fifth English
Oh, yeah, yeah,
standard.
yeah. It's first
I
English.
was
Thank
just
you,
saying
thank you,
first. Yeah.
thank you, thank you. I'll read that again. The day following his admission to the ashram, he was examined by the school authorities thoroughly before being put into the fifth Persian and first English standard of the school. Within one month, Ali began to read the well known Persian work Gulistan with graceful ease and had to be promoted to the second English standard. So good was his progress in this foreign language, too. At the time of writing this, Ali was in the fourth English and had completed his Persian course. Of all his virtues, explicit obedience seems to be his watchword. Twice he has been reported having wept simply because some boys would not obey the master properly. Then again, Ali is very outspoken. Later on, when his little heart had begun to throb with divine love, he used at times to become quite a dunce in the class, but would never try to make a secret of it and admitted the fact frankly before his class teachers, adding one of his pet phrases: "Oh God, what can I do? My heart is cold." In the same way, when he felt like brilliant, as he actually is, he never felt shy in blurting out, "What a good boy I have become now, sir, haven't I?" And with all these serious qualities, Ali is not of a reserved nature. On the contrary, he freely and cheerfully mixes with all the other boys and is very active, almost to the point of innocent mischief.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling up. Yeah. In fact, he is so very agile that for him to go about here and there, jumping and dancing, is as simple and easy as to a squirrel. If there is any trouble to the boys in the institution, if it could be said to be trouble in the ordinary sense of the word, since no organization is free from it to a certain degree, it is the strict observance of all disciplinary rules nowhere else enforced. The slightest breach of any rule by any boy is at once reported to the authorities concerned without an exception. And so, it is no small credit that he is rarely reported, which shows how strictly he observes the discipline of the ashram. Yet, of all these fine characteristics, love can fairly be said to be the diamond and crowning jewel in Ali. We shall see in the next chapter more about this diamond and how it was cut and polished by the divine jeweler. So there's one word in the
Divine
last.
jeweler.
Yeah,
Interesting expression.
yeah. So let's look up this word dunce. What does dunce mean? Right? Anybody who's, I mean, if you know about the word, we.
Must be slow in learning a stupid person.
Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So whose mic was that? There was noise suddenly on someone's mic.
Oh,
Okay. So thanks for that, Ravi. So it's a dunce is basically a person who is slow and maybe a stupid person also, but
yeah.
who's slow at
Sorry,
learning.
that was mine. I think I accidentally opened another Teams. I think that's kind of interact.
Yeah, yeah. I think it suddenly blew up your mic. Yeah. So he used
What was this used? I'm sorry. Can you say the context?
yeah.
This
So
dance
later on, when his little heart had begun to throb with divine love, he used to at times to become quite a dunce in the class, but would never try to make a secret of it and admitted the fact frankly before his class teachers, adding one of his pet phrases, "Oh God, what can I do? My heart is cold." So, in the same way, when he felt like brilliant as he actually is, he never felt shy in blurting out, "What a good boy I have become now, sir, haven't I?" So he himself was self-effacive and used to say that
Mm.
my heart is cold and act as though he is not able to make sense in the class. But he was actually more brilliant than that, right? So that's what I make of it. But then we barely started with the intro. So now we move to chapter 4, the divine lift. Um, you want to rotate the reading? Ravi, you want to read?
Yeah, the divine lift. We have seen in the second chapter that just 2 days before the hero appeared on the scene, the master had begun to influence the boys directly to higher aspirations with constant hints and an occasional silent lecture on love. These stray explanations and lectures on divinity and spirituality that the Master had conveyed so far since the year 1922 to his many disciples and visitors, if put together, would, I make bold to say, provide an unprecedented illumination on divine points such as has never appeared in print or manuscript to this day. While the story of the deep effects that these discourses have had on many a stony heart would be another inspirational reading for those who aspire to spirituality. And much as I like to repeat some of the discourses here, the question of space and the sequence of this narrative compel me to leave them for a separate work. Though I cannot help adding that it was only one of these that really saved me from the clutches of Maya and made me surrender myself to the Master some 6 years ago. But the series of divine explanations that His Holiness was pleased to convey since the 23rd of November, 2 days after the advent of Ali, made all, the young and old, who had the good fortune to be present at the time, to hold their breath with amazement. From that day, the separate sections of the spiritual instruction classes, such as the Gujarati, Marathi, Persian, and Urdu, were postponed for some time. For more than a month after this date, the master continued to convey for a couple of hours every evening these explanations, and all the boys, as well as the older disciples, were held spellbound with rapt attention and enthusiasm. And the wonder of it was that the master did this merely through gestures and alphabet pointing, maintaining his grim silence throughout. Besides, he conveyed the deep subject matter as he alone can convey, in such a way that the little ones were no less interested and enthralled than the grown-ups. What time of this book is written? Do you have any idea? Do you
It's
remember?
1936, I think, 36 or
Oh,
37.
36. Okay, okay. And this Premashram boys is
It
after
will-
1927, right? 1927, 28.
No, I think you're right. It's 27, not 37. Let's check. It was covered. Yeah, it's 29. The book is
29,
published. No,
29.
29 book is published.
Yeah.
So there was a mention
Oh,
of.
before that, right? Before
So this
that.
is
Yeah.
26, I think.
Mm.
Um,
Google says 1929, Karthik.
which one? Ah, it
Yeah,
was late
yeah,
March of
28.
Google
March
says,
1928. So it's 2029. You're right.
Mm.
no, it says about the book. This
Mhm.
author Ramjoo Abdullah, publisher is N.N. Setha, 1929, 169 pages.
Correct.
Almost like 104 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
96 years ago, to be precise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 1927. Yeah, 90s. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
All right. Since then, these have been compiled and form a small booklet, which can well be styled Creation and Its Causes. It's all very novel, fantastic, and fairy tale like.
If I
See,
can
one
pause you
thing I
for a
like
minute.
about the,
Yeah, if I can
yeah,
pause you. Yeah, go ahead. You first.
yeah. One thing I like about the Creation and Its Causes is the language is very, very simple. That
Hmm.
part compared to God speaks. The same information is told in a discourses is what's his name, Doctor
C.D.
uh,
Deshmukh.
Deshmukh is a kind of English language, and Baba made it God speaks very difficult language. But this tiffin lectures and the creation and causes, the language is very, very simple. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. So if you notice here, creation and its causes is in italics. This is still 1929. And to be honest, I remember now that Ward Parks mentioned that it was Abdullah that gave a suggestion for the title of this book, because
Correct.
the book
Yeah.
did not have the book Creation and Its Causes did not have. I mean, it was a booklet. It was a diary of collected articles, which are nothing but the lectures given by Baba. So here's a
Yeah.
reference to how he has already thought of the name back in 1929.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And each chapter is dated.
correct.
Dates.
It's
Chapter
classes.
title
Yeah,
is dates.
it's
Yeah.
lectures.
Right now we are in 4th and 5th December 1927.
Okay. By the
We're
way,
reading that.
Mahu and Kiran, Ravi was telling me about a small group that's reading, led by Vidyavati Garu in Bangalore, on the book Creation and Its Causes. The reading happens every Sunday at what time, India? 5 to 6:30.
6:30.
Oh, 6:30 to 7:30 India. Okay.
And I don't know if it's open to everybody. I'm not sure, but she sends message privately
Oh, okay.
to
So
join.
can you check
Yeah.
with her and then let us know? I can even post it on the community.
Yeah, I will check with her.
Yeah.
Actually, I've seen that announcement. It came to me through one email or what, but then somehow it got disappeared from my memory. And yes, they meet once a week. I'm not sure if it's open to public. That was an invitation. That was not an
Yeah.
invitation email.
It's not open
But it was
invitation.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of a news that there is such uh, actually group exists, which is
Mhm.
wonderful. I'm very happy that they're formed this. And
I think Vidyavati kinds of feels how to say. I don't know. I should be careful in what I say. I'm not sure whether she's going to be. She is for public. Don't take me at face value, but yeah, Karthik Vidya, right? We know
Yeah,
Vidya.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Probably you know much more than me. You know her
No,
much
no,
more
no,
than me.
nothing like that.
Huh?
It's mostly through karma that I know Vidya. And of course, she's a great person. I'd love to
where are
join
they
if I
from?
can.
Where are they
Bangalore,
from?
Bangalore,
Oh,
Bangalore.
Bangalore. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know a lot
Mm.
of people from Bangalore. But I mean, this group is kind of reading and evolving. So at some point, maybe this group can also start reading that book.
Yeah, we can read.
And its
Actually,
causes. Yeah,
I
why
can
not?
uh, I can make a copy of the uh, creation and causes, and maybe display only.
Hmm.
That way we can read and read it. Yeah, instead of
Sure.
distributing. the copy of it,
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
Again, we'll have to go through the drill of getting permission from Frank Blois and the trust. But then, yes, that's a good path to take.
Yeah.
Actually, for making a casual copy of the book, like this is what Christina is doing with New Life book.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a very comprehensive page 1 through 400 or 5. It's one by one for every session. I think she takes a photo of that with her
Mobile phone.
iPhone. Yeah, with iPhone, and then somehow then she's able to change it to PDF format, and
Okay.
then so like that. But I will, it's a good thing that we develop, because I've been thinking about ward parks myself and how all the situation for Western resident in India change. They can only stay there 6 months. So that gives me the intention, just I'm going to read him an email, send him an email. I think at some point he did say that it's going to be become PDF and available, but I'm not quite sure. If anything has been provided, he
No,
knows
so
about it.
I'll tell you the logic that he explained. Yes, he did say it will get to ebook form or PDF form down the line. But
Uh-huh.
the logic that the trust would apply is recovery of
Yeah. Yeah.
expenditure towards uh, creating the book. By the way, I'm very sore about that.
Oh,
But
okay. Sure.
they shouldn't
No,
they
it's
shouldn't be worried
no.
about they shouldn't be worried about per book profitability. That's not what the trust objective is. The trust objective says get my word out. Baba says get my word out. If
But
this is Baba's word, that's one of the functions and one of the effective uses of the budget of the trust.
I know.
Anyway, that's
But
my
Yeah,
personal
but
but
opinion.
no, two things I would like to comment, Karthik.
Mhm.
Uh, the cost of printing is not that cheap. It's
Who
printed in
cares? Who
US. Okay.
cares? Who cares?
Well, if
There's
you are you going to
there are
okay,
the
let me ask you
object.
this.
Yeah.
Who cares? Because the people who spend money, they care. You may
No,
not
no.
care.
So who
Do
is
you want
that?
to spend money?
No, no. Hold on. Who is that? In
okay,
this
People
there's
who
a
case,
spend money on that.
publisher.
it happens to
It,
There
be
is
an
a
organization
publisher.
that arms. Yeah. It's arm's length from the trust. Technically, it's not even the trust.
No,
It's
no, no.
arm's length from the
Here's
trust.
No, here's the catch. Trust
no, that's
has
not
the
practical.
editorial. I mean, I think this not getting lengthy. Let's not forget that we're reading this
No,
book.
it's
But there is an editorial group
Mm-hmm.
that Ward Parks is ahead of it.
Yes.
Any book that by Baba, about Baba, or whatnot, uh, the the copyright, anything documented, the copyright trust owns it. So they write to a trust issues that, and there's always a private donor or something. I don't think that trust is subsidizing for
uh,
publishing. No.
yeah.
I
I
think
would
there's
like to
a
add one more
Sharia
point.
Foundation. Yeah, Sharia Foundation is a publisher
I would like
in
to add one
Mirtapur.
more point, Karthik, is trust is going a lot of financial crunch right
I
now.
know. I know. I know that
You
part.
know,
That part
I
I agree.
believe they are spending 1 crore, 80 lakhs to 1 crore per month of rupees they need to just sustain, and they are not even getting half of that donations now.
Yeah,
Number one. Okay.
because of the bar
And
on international or overseas contributions. Yeah.
yeah, they have come down a lot. They're struggling a lot just to survive. Number one. Number two, this is they could not print this. Sharia Press is a private entity, no, maybe no non-profit organization, but they're all struggling too. There's a US organization. They're struggling a lot. They're also asking for donations and everything. So, with all these financial crunches, there is nobody who is rich enough to contribute to just freely print, and oh, is Baba's words. And Baba things are always, and not many rich people are there in Baba community. Probably Baba wants it that way. Baba wants it to do the stuff, his work, through effort in a simple way. That's what he wants. And like any other books, like Lord Meher was published in America to start with, long time ago in 85, something like that. They sold copies and they're very expensive at that time. And we used to buy those copies at that time. I'm talking about 85, 89, something like that. But later on, Balaji came out and he started this
Yes.
press with his own money, and he lost money too. He printed very cheaply just to provide these books to the Indian who cannot afford that much. So, with all
Absolutely.
these things, I think it's going to be a while before these books will come into PDF form, just like God Speaks, and available for us to read it. So,
Yeah.
what I'm thinking is, I'll just make a copy, and I mean, if anybody can afford to buy it, I bought a copy, and Mahu, she lives in the US, right? Mahu, it's about $100, Mahu, and what's his name? Kiran also lives in
75.
US.
75 share your books in Myrtle Beach is
Yeah,
sending it.
$77, something like that, with mailing and all. People who live in America, they can easily afford this book. But people, who cannot afford, we can make copies and display, and not circulate that copy. Just for the reading purpose, we can just print it and put it out electronically on the computer and read it.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. Again, as Mahu said, let's not get into the legal question around this. There are different views, but the key thing, Ravi, is if you do so and if you decide to actually display it, we need permission, because the first page in the book, you will notice it actually explicitly disallows broadcast, right? So you can't
Yeah,
do
they won't allow.
display, yeah, you can't
Mhm.
display or broadcast
All
apart
right.
from apart from distributing you can obviously commit to not doing. So that's what I did with infinite intelligence. So on a commitment of non-distribution, I have permission to display it on screen and
Oh,
publish it.
that copy is being distributed by everybody in US. But
I
in
not mine,
not
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 mine.
yours.
No, 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 no. As far as I know,
I have I
no,
asked for
actually,
something
I
else,
have
and they
been
sent
going
me a
through my
copy,
LinkedIn.
and I said I didn't get it, and they got another copy. It's in there, and
No, no,
I
but
looked at
then
it,
is
and the
it?
No,
same thing. What
do
you
it
got a
through the
copy.
legal way because we need to stay faithful and
Exactly.
follow
Yeah,
procedures and
yeah,
policies in Baba world.
uh-huh.
We
Yeah.
cannot violate that. Baba is very picky about it. I
Yes,
think.
yes, yes.
Absolutely. I have not shared it with a single person,
Yeah, good.
right? So
Yeah,
I've been true to that. And like Mahu said, that it's important that we may have a difference of opinion, but then what is expected as legal behavior, we should conform
Mhm.
to that.
Now the
yeah,
question is, do we do this in presence of Baba? That's the thing.
Exactly. That's it, right? So
Yeah,
if
we don't
yeah.
do it, and we
That's
don't do
right.
it. Period.
that's it,
Yeah,
that's it. Perfect. Okay,
Okay, so let's continue.
let's
Can we
continue.
yeah.
read from since, please? Since, if you don't mind. Since
What
then.
is that?
From
Sorry.
the top of this page, please. From since then.
Yeah, since then, these have been compiled and form a small booklet which can be styled Creation and its Causes. It's all very novel, fantastic, and fairy tale like. Yet it is the most logical explanation of divinity and the whole of creation as far as reach of the intellectual allows that has ever been brought to light in this way. The suns and the moons and the skies and the plains and the ethereal, mineral, vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms, birth, deaths, heaven and hell, the subtle and the mental world, saints and prophets, and the very source of all, The soul of all souls are described, explained, and shown by Master as one would describe a city, explain the effects of wine, and show that is music for actually seeing, drinking, and hearing them all. He would explain and elucidate points so very clearly and logically as would carry the hearers almost to the verge of subjective experience. You know, can I say just a couple? Okay, let me finish this and then I'll say. Logically, as would carry hearers almost to the verge of subjective experience. So far as the creation and its causes concerns, this narrative, it was the master's inimitable tact in creating the moral of love out of all the various subjects at the end of the discourse every evening. Love me and you will find me. I am ready to make you Vivekanandas. Very, very beautiful. And
Oh,
Ramatirthas, Ali's, and Arjun's. The only price asked for is love. Why is there is a big gap between the previous page and this one?
It's not a big gap. It's just the way the PDF is created.
Oh,
Basically,
created.
it
Oh, I
continues
see.
like this. I am ready to make you Vivekanandas and Ram Tirthas,
Ramatirthas,
Alis, and Arjuns. The only
uh,
price asked for is love.
love. Yeah. Spirituality is offered as a route. Love alone will get the lion's share. Divinity is being auctioned. Make the highest bid with all the love that you can create and command. Such was the gist of Master's constant remarks that he kept on adding from time to time during and after this special spiritual class as the spiritual sauce to the great divine feast that was freely being served to the lucky Ashramites. On the 28th November 1927, in the course of such remarks, the master even went to the extent of disclosing a part of his internal game to the boys and conveyed through the usual signs. At first, I had intended to advance you gradually in the path, but the time of the great spiritual outburst that takes place in the world at long intervals is near at hand. And so I have changed the program. I am going to advance a few amongst you who will be ready with love very soon. It is not late yet. Let your hearts strive and strain to the utmost and create love and feelings for me. But amidst all such suggestions, the boys were equally impressed upon not to strain their brains. They were frequently reminded that painful attempts would not avail in creating love, as free attempts made with joyous enthusiasm and boyish glee would. Besides firing their intellect with spirituality in this way, divinity was directly imparted to the boys by the master through frequent embraces and pats and fondling them for a number of times in a day. At times, the boys were patted till they fretted and fumed with love and feelings, and out of sheer ecstasy, even disobeyed the master when asked to go away and take to studies, save the hero, who, even in fever heat of love, stuck to his watchword, obedience, and never defied the master through word or deed, as did some of the other boys amidst the sobs and throbs of their little hearts. Thus, within a fortnight, the atmosphere became surcharged with love in the Meher Ashram. Many of the boys and some of the grown up members of the institution began also to look greatly changed. They became reserved and less talkative. They were frequently found preoccupied in the thoughts of the master and were found averse to eating playing, and sleeping. Ali led this group prominently. To a casual observer, Ali still remained the same picture of innocent mischief and boyish activity. But when watched carefully, the great change in his heart was easily perceptible in many ways. Every now and then, the master's name was on his lips. His hands, too, worked with the vibrations of his heart and scribbled out his uppermost thoughts in words such as Meher Baba is my master, Aga Ali, the son of Meher Baba. This book belongs to the humble servant of Meher Baba, etc. on his books, papers, and all odd things that he came across with, and on which the music of his heart could be reproduced, whether through pencil, a pen, or a scratch with a piece of a stone or a metal. Besides, things that belonged to the master seemed to have a great attraction for the boy, and he could be often seen fondling and playing with the master's sandals, pillows, coats, etc. Unlike many of the other boys, Ali did not seem to be much attracted towards the master's photos or in playing with and adoring them, but was very keen in collecting the master's hair, nails, and even a piece of cotton wool. Now, where is Ali from? He is that one of the Mughals' son, right?
Yes. So Indian origin, but Muslim.
What happened to him? No, do you know what happened to him after later on?
What do you mean? I don't know.
When he grew up, he was with Baba. Baba took him to England, and I wonder what
Yeah.
happened to him later on.
No, no, that's all I know too. So,
Mm,
No one
yeah.
knows what happened to him.
Uh-huh.
We only know about him up to the year 1933, and just because it's in the Lord Meher written
Yeah.
about him. Other than that, no one knows actually. I don't know if whether he's reincarnated. Where did he go? I don't know. I mean, maybe there are people who would know.
Yeah. You know, one small story reminds me of my hometown. You know, Karthik, you know Vijayawada, right?
yeah,
Vijayawada, there is another city called Guntur next to Vijayawada. You know that, right?
correct.
Yeah. So Baba visited Vijayawada and Guntur, and when Baba was walking in the streets of Guntur, one small boy came playingly, and Baba held his hand.
Uh-huh.
And throughout that street, he was just playing, and Baba held his hand, and they were walking. As Baba was walking, and the people were bowing down to Baba and all these things. Throughout this walk, this boy was holding Baba's hand. Baba was holding his hand, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, Baba left, and everybody forgot about this. And I happened to work with a gentleman, very Raghaval Garu. You know, you heard about him, right? Raghaval.
No.
Raghaval. Raghaval did a lot of Baba's work, Baba's must work and all that stuff. Even though he was not Mandali, but he was a very close disciple of Meher Baba. He used to live in Vijayawada,
Okay.
and even he had a chance to. Baba asked him to do some work, must work, but he had to work with a must that was in seventh plane.
Okay.
I at that time I didn't understand, what is seventh plane must means. I only know must that are up to sixth plane, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So seventh plane must is the people who got mazub state.
Correct.
Um, these perfect masters work on the mazubs to bring them down to the gross. Mazubs are always in God
Last to
conscious, but they are
creation consciousness.
not creation conscious. They are
Correct.
like must, right? But some of the must they become Paramahamsa or who is the other type? Mm. So these perfect masters and avatar, they work on some of these mazubs to bring them down to the creation conscious. So they are in Turiya Avastha. Turiya Avastha is whenever they want to be God, they experience God. They are already in the seventh plane. But whenever they want to be in the gross conscious, they experience the gross conscious. So they go between God state and the human state. They're not
Correct.
simultaneously experience. Whereas avatars and perfect masters, they simultaneously experience God state. And so this Raghaval Garu used to did some work with that. There is one tail Baba, something like that in Calcutta. You must have read it in the Wayfarers.
Yeah, Teli Baba.
Teli Baba. Teli
Hmm.
Baba was in seventh plane,
Oh yeah,
Mazur.
now I remember you mentioned Raghavlu when we were reading Teli.
Teli. Right, right.
Yeah.
So this Raghavala, I had a chance to work with him for about 9 months. After I finished my PhD, I thought I would not want to be in the education field. I want to be in business field. So I think it's all Baba's creation. So, but I don't know anything about business. So my family bought a pharmaceutical company, and to help me, Raghaval Garu used to work in a railways at that time. Very ardent Baba lover, and he retired. So they asked him, well, "Do you want to work again?" He said yes. So I had a chance to work with him almost 9 months, and he was telling me all these stories. I used to take him to office, and we used to even go for lunch to my brother's house, and we had lunch in the afternoon, come back in the evening, we used to walk home, something like that. So coming back to the story of this boy who was with Baba, so they tried to investigate what happened to that boy in Guntur, and they found him. He
Okay.
grew up, and he's a what do you call that, business cast, comedy,
Okay.
and they have a store, and he's maintaining that store, a small street corner, store. They sell everything, right? All
Grocery.
the
Okay.
grocery, small grocery store, and he was selling there. And they went and inquired, "Do you remember when you were young, And then he vaguely remembered, but he doesn't remember very strongly, Meher Baba. But he doesn't believe. I mean, he has all these other gods and all. And like any other store, they have all these every god in their store, right? But he doesn't
Okay.
remember. So
Interesting.
that's the kind of a story I I remember what
Interesting.
happens to him. Yeah.
Okay, so we were at you stopped at the I mean this is
Cotton
not
wool.
even an end of a sentence, so maybe you can start
Yeah.
from this sentence again.
Yeah. Unlike many other boys, Ali did not seem to be much attracted towards the master's photos or in playing with the and adoring them, but was very keen in collecting the master's hair, nails, and even piece of cotton wool that he might have once used to stuff his ears with. He would treasure these up as one would treasure diamonds and pearls and constantly feast his eyes on them. But the most remarkable point was the great attraction that Ali began to have for the master's personality. Just as the needle would rush at the magnet when brought near it, Ali used to seek proximity of the master at the first opportunity and remained by him as long as he could. Still, for a casual observer, there was nothing like a show about him. It was, however, on the 17th December that the depth of his feeling came to be known generally. Some boys before this,
Some days,
huh? Where?
some days before this.
No, still for casual observer, there was okay, yeah. Some days before this, he got eczema on his hand, and on this day, the master decided for Ali to remain in the hospital, aloof from everyday life, till it was cured. And when he was removed there, tears began to roll down his cheeks in a string of sparkling pearls. Why? Simply because he could not bear the thought of separation from the master, even for a few days. He did not, however, allow his fact to escape from his lips voluntarily. It was only when the master argued with him for about an hour or so that the real reason of his crying came to light. His weeping did not cease until the master conveyed to him a solemn promise that he would not have to remain in the hospital for more than 2 days, and that during these 2 days he, the master, would come to see him occasionally.
Wow. Oh, so that's chapter 4. So he's not
Mhm.
yet got into the full exposition, and the full
Mm,
exposition, like he says, is 17th December, and this is a few
mm.
days before that. Interesting. Okay, we can. Mahu, are you in a position to read for a bit? So we can rotate if you're okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, Ravi. Then, Mahu, you can take over from chapter 5.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Chapter 5, All Aflame. On the 20th December 1927, the 41st day of his fast, the master confined himself in a double room in the near vicinity of the Meher Ashram. This room was built on the spot as early as in the month of July of the same year, some 5 months in advance, and none could make any head or tail of it at that time. About 6 feet in length, equally deep underground, and 4 feet in breadth, with a small flight of stairs just sufficient for a single person to pass through this crypt-like place at a time. It was solidly built in lime and stone, and resembled a steel safe. In place of a roof, a flat piece of wooden board was fixed over the top, closing the room closing the room in from all sides, save the small opening above for the stairs. Immediately above this peculiar pit of a room, another was built of wooden scantlings, bamboo matting, and iron sheets. This latter room was a bit more spacious than the crypt right below it. A door was fixed at one end of this upper room for the attendants and visitors, who were but seldom let in. The room had 3 other openings as windows. One of these was at the back of overlooking the Riyazatgah, or Sadhak Ashram, a set of 5 separate rooms, each one just large enough for a person to lie down comfortably, wherein 5 of the grown-up disciples had also imprisoned themselves just a few days before the master confined himself. The wonderful phenomena witnessed by some of this latter group. Now, page 20. This latter group, during their voluntary imprisonment, does not concern this narrative. That fact has simply been mentioned to give an idea of the wide scope of the master's internal workings. To continue the description of the master's prison, the remaining 2 windows were in the front overlooking the Meher Ashram, its playgrounds, and the rest of the premises connected with it. One of these was enclosed with wire netting for the master to look through, when he retired into the upper room, and the others served the main purpose of enabling him to appear before the disciples, boys, and visitors, as he generally did throughout the day and also during the early hours of dawn. The master remained locked up here till the 26th of February 1928. During the period of 2 months and 8 days, the master never came out of this peculiar lockup and usually retired for the night in the vault below. That's very interesting description.
Yeah.
On the same, yeah, we just have no idea how the
What
master
was doing
works.
exactly?
Yeah. On the same day, the 20th of December 1927, the master passed another extraordinary order. Quote, all the boys in the institution must not even be touched with the hand by anyone including the class teachers and the school and ashram authorities. All these were but the faint, gross indications of some powerful divine current having been let loose in the surroundings. Yet none of the most enthusiastic of the disciples was ever prepared for the all aflame capital result that followed quickly. The fire of love that was smoldering silently of late in many of the tiny hearts, within a week of the master's self-imprisonment, began to give out sparks. Streams of pearl-like tears began to flow freely from many little eyes every now and then without an apparent reason. This much was certain that it was neither, next page,
Yeah.
sure, it was neither due to any physical pain or or private or privation, nor was it due to any grief. Many of the boys on contrary, found relief and a kind of pleasure in weeping out their hearts. Meditation and concentration, weeping and crying appalled to them more than eating, sleeping, and playing. They were tears of love. Who weeps for love, he weeps the best. Who cries for else, he does but jest. Is a little poem. It was this line couplet that the boys were rendering into reality and action. Even during the school recess, for a few minutes, the boys could not help giving vent to the throbs of their hearts through soul-stirring sobs, and the school compound used to present a touching scene for a few minutes throughout during this first week of the master's self-imprisonment. Everywhere the huddled up figures of the boys were found engrossed in meditation or sobbing out the throbs of their little hearts all over the
Yeah.
all over the all over the engrossed where are we all over all over the ground and the nooks and corners of the surrounding premises. That even this separation of a few hours from the master's proximity during the school periods was unbearable and painful to these boys was an open secret. But lo, the New Year day of the Christian era, the 1st of January 1928, which also happened to be the 52nd day of the Master's fasting and the 12th one since he confined himself, witnessed the most magnificent outbursts of divinity that has perhaps ever manifested itself in the world in such a way. As if the deep-rooted divine emotion of the select few had set the rest of the boys into commotion, the majority of them began to cry openly every now and then throughout the day. But it was in the evening that the climax was reached. From the one to the last of every creed. Next page. Every creed and caste, the boys in the ashram burst into tears and began to weep and wail as if all their dear ones were reported to be dead at a stroke. For about an hour, between 7 and 8 in the evening, this wonderful phenomenon simply held the onlookers spellbound. The shrieks and cries could even be heard a quarter of a mile away from the ashram. Attempts were of course made by the authorities in pacifying the boys and ascertaining from them the reason for this outburst. But it was all to no purpose. They seemed to be all engrossed in crying and deaf to all else. Baba, Baba, the name by which the master is generally known, were the only words that could be heard distinctly in all this tumult. Only this much was as clear as daylight, that however widely they might have been crying when brought in the presence of the master, they became silent with a magical swiftness. The following day, during the 20 minutes of recess, a similar outburst was witnessed on the school grounds, but the wonder of it was that all the sound of the warning bell for resumption of classes, it all came to an abrupt end, although the select few seemed still struggling for subjecting their hearts to the command of the master in the shape of the ringing of the bell. After a day or two, more such collective crying of the boys ceased, yet many still continued weeping now and then for days together. But in all this inborn and locally affected crying, the weeping of Ali was the most singular. The throbs of his heart, though seemingly vibrating his very bones, brought out almost silent sobs. He never talked sentimentally or in lofty words. He neither desired the spiritual advancement nor asked for divine enlightenment. The proximity of the master was all in all to give him peace and contentment. The happiness of his heart and the tranquility of his mind when he happened to be near the master was not a mystery even to a casual observer. At such moments, he used to look the very picture of peace and calmness. From the second week of January, however, the master began to avoid close contact with Ali. This crack lover, quote unquote, crack lover, as my friend Mr. Dada Chanji One of the faithful disciples of my master likes to call him in his notes and diaries, was kept at arm's length for some time. Perhaps he was sufficiently surcharged with love to the bursting point. Although the master avoided personal touch, he seemed bent upon keeping Ali's feelings strong to the last tune. The boy was often called to the master only to be dismissed with a curt inquiry, curt inquiry instead of an embrace or a loving pat that he so long to used to get. He so long used to get. This treatment of the master was a sort of fuel to the fire of love that was all aflame by now in his little heart. In spite of his characteristic suavity, Ali could not curb the twitches and twings that flickered on his usually complacent features on such occasions. He suffered and bore all this bravely and patiently as only a true lover can bear and suffer. For a heart that is not aglow with such deep divine emotions, it is simply impossible to imagine even one-tenth of the poignancy of the pain that was caused to this brave and bold lover through such deliberate separation and intentional pinpricks of the master. And for all that, Ali neither disobeyed the irritating commands of the master, nor uttered an undignified word to his face, much though he fretted and fumed when he got away from him. As if to show to what extent this noble soul could go in controlling his emotion and obeying his commands, the master on the evening of the 17th January, in the presence of many other boys and disciples, sent for Ali nearly a dozen times, each time dismissing him on one pretext or the other without letting him come within his loving clasp, for which the hero was as impatient as a fish out of the water. The master himself could not help bursting into a silent eulogy of Ali that he conveyed through his usual gestures to those around him. To jest of it, the jest of it was, quote, "Here is the concrete example of that noble sentiment. Masti may behi sar apana saqi ke kadam par ho." Is this Sanskrit? I don't
No, it's
know.
just Hindi. Let me read it. Masti mein bhi sar apna sakhi ke kadam par ho. Let
Uh-huh.
my head remain on the feet of my master, even when I am in the overpowered state of love. Sakhi
Very
is friend, kadam is feet, and sar apna is my head is going to be on the feet of the master. It's Hindi.
Yeah, but it's interestingly, some of this is Farsi too.
Okay,
Sar is said in Farsi. Qadam is also,
okay,
yeah, so we have common words, but I
yeah,
didn't recognize. Thank you for reading it.
sure,
Let me read the translation again. Let
sure.
my head remain, let my head remain on the feet of my master, even when I am in the overpowered state of love. Ali is in the overpowered state. Still, he is not indifferent in carrying out the commands in spite of the tumult in his heart. On the 28th of January, the master openly declared Ali to be quite ready with sufficient love to enable him to be taken away from the domain of the bound, quote unquote, bound to the region of the free, but for a final touch from him. Then why this
I
touch?
have, Maho, can you just,
Sure.
I have a question about that Hindi translation.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting, that quote. Can you go back?
Here
So
it
let
is.
my head remain on the feet of my master, even when I am in the overpowered state of love. So to keep my head on the feet is like a intellectual thinking, right? Whereas overpowering state of love is feeling love. And Baba always says love is more important than the intellect part of it. What do you guys think about that?
Good question, or good
Go ahead.
analysis of the statement. So
Hmm.
again, I think when you say, I think it's still an expression of love only. So the head here is not referring to the
Obedience,
brain.
right? There's a
Yeah,
more
yeah.
obedience.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I'm just submitting or surrendering to the master in full love is the way I would
Hmm.
interpret it. Mahu, you were saying
Because,
something.
Yeah,
uh-huh.
is for me also, I can visualize bowing down to the feet of the master, like a totally subservient or surrendering to the master's love. That's how I see it. I mean, when you see your master and all the love that he's emanating, it's just, I can imagine it automatically happens. You just melted in that love, and then you bow down to his feet or to the feet of the master, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Maho,
think it's
interesting. You brought the
natural.
point.
Yeah, I'm
Suppose
sorry.
we three of us, I mean, you brought very interesting point. Suppose we three of us went to Mehrabad, and suddenly Baba appeared before us. To be honest with you, I may not remember to bow down to his feet, but I'm totally engrossed in viewing his form and being near him with total love. Even if I forget to bow down and give a hug to him, unless somebody prompts him or Baba asks me, there's a possibility for me to even forget that. You see what I mean? So does it
Yes.
mean I'm not doing my job?
No, no, no. Everybody's expression could be different. All it is that you're expressing your love for the masters. The shape of it probably it really not non-relevant. But you're right, Ravi. When I just read this translation one more time. Sometimes this expression, let my head remain on the feet of the master, as I'm not even thinking about it, right? When
Yeah,
your
right, right,
head
right.
is remaining on the feet, like surrendering, you don't even think, you're absorbed in that overpowering state of love. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, not intellect might be a little bit heavier than for our visualization, but definitely thoughtless,
yeah,
all heart.
thoughtless. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all heart.
See, sometimes when I go to my temple, in the local temple, we have all the different personalities like Shiva, Rama, Krishna, Kali, Ganesha, everybody. Okay, and I can certainly see a lot of divine glow in all of them. And I stand at a distance, and then I just appreciate the glow with love, no doubt about it. To be honest with you, I sometimes forget to like bow down. I mean, all the people come and bow down, and all they do all these rituals. Maybe when somebody is there doing it, I might do it. There are times I just forgot, and without doing it, I came out. Uh, So that's why I'm asking this this thought, you know.
You're right, but and I've read somewhere Baba said I don't even remember, I don't know the. But sometimes when we're bowing down to the Pir Wali or even seven planar. Well, we don't have the avatar right now. Well, we have him in subtle and mental world. I mean, in gross world. But Baba says that in other words, you're offering your sanskaras to him.
Yes,
But when
Baba
you,
clearly said that.
yeah,
Mm.
so when you are bowing, I remember with one of these premashram, one day we can talk about all this. I was actually in his close touch and meditation and all that stuff for 5 years here. And that was Baba's gift to us in Los Angeles. But sometimes, when people would come in the beginning to say hello and greet him, they wanted to bow down to his feet. He would take away his feet. He won't
Who
let them.
who who are, who are you talking about?
This is this particular Pramashram boy. His name is Esfandiar Vesali.
Oh, Expandier Vaisali. I know
Yeah,
him. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. He's
That
one
was
of
the
the
that was the name, Karthik. I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
Expandier Vaisali.
Vasali.
Yeah,
Correct,
yeah.
correct.
Esfandiar
Vaisali. Yeah.
Vesali.
Hmm.
He is one of the 14 boys that was brought from Iran to Mehrabad by Abedul, by Bedul. Yeah.
Yeah,
So he was,
Baidul. Yeah.
so and in other words, he was in transition to, he was a six planer that, was so much in um, longing. I can't even describe how his state of being was, but to really merge with Baba, I mean, you could see that easily. And so obviously if I bow down to him and naturally my sanskaras come to him, he's going to be load is going to be heavier, so he was hesitant to take anybody's. We wouldn't do it, but some people would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
anyway.
So, in fact, in the Hindu tradition, it's very common, right? So, when we meet masters, we are supposed to do that. So,
Yeah.
after coming to Baba, I just submit to Baba when there is a social construct where I can't escape it. So I do it, but otherwise I'm very conscious of it. I do not want to do it unless there's like I said, a social construct around it. And if there is a social construct, I remember Baba as I am
Yeah.
falling at the feet.
Exactly.
Yes.
I belong to
Yeah.
this Chinmaya mission. Is when any Swamiji comes and gives a talk, is a tradition that everybody bows down. And I used to hesitate, but if I don't bow down, people look at me. What's this guy is an arrogant guy. So I bow down. When I bow down, I clearly bring Baba into my picture. I feel I'm bowing down to Baba.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
best way. That's the best
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact,
Mhm.
that's what I do even in all the temples. Wherever I go,
Oh yeah, I see
Hindu
Baba. Yeah,
temples, yeah, I see Baba. That's it. Yeah.
I see Baba.
In fact, Baba is the only thing that exists.
Exactly.
Nothing else
Exactly.
exists. Says that.
Exactly.
My
No, I mean,
nephew.
initially there was a conflict in my head on, hey, what should I do? Should I go? Am I being hypocritical? Am I being, there was a conflict in my head. It was more in my head only. But I'm very sorted now. I am very comfortable. I don't mind having to go anywhere. I welcome. I mean, I'm equally comfortable in a mosque. I'm equally comfortable in a church, and I am very comfortable in any Hindu temple as well. So, and everywhere I only see Baba, like you said. That's all there is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very good. There are, Baba wants us actually to go in places like that, like Elizabeth Patterson, the close disciple of Baba that established the Meher Center along with Norina. She was going to church every Sunday, taking Baba with her. I'm sure there was Baba's instruction. Then later on, the pastor and all the church people came to Meher Center. See, that's how
Hmm.
Baba works. She
Exactly.
went there and took the love and Baba there, and in return, they came back and got to know about Meher Baba, like that.
Excellent. Yeah. So I think you can reread from here because I think he's talking about the power of the touch. So you can start from here.
Yeah, let's
Ma'am.
yeah, so we can finish this. On the
Yeah.
28th of January, the master openly declared Ali to be quite ready with sufficient love to enable him to be taken away from the domain of the bound to the region of the free, but for a final touch from him. Then why this touch was withheld? Well, here came in the devil, as mentioned on the opening page of this book, and formed quite a story by itself, which will be duly narrated in a separate chapter. In the meantime, let me tell my reader as to how and why the master, pending this final touch, which has been withheld to this date, gave Ali a glimpse, I think is a little bit, yeah, a glimpse of that, which is beyond the gross. It means beyond the gross world. Yeah.
Correct.
Very interesting. Very
Very
lucky.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
And he's left us dangling. He's left us dangling on two accounts. One, this concept of this devil, and the second is the experience, right? So let me tell my reader as to how and why the master, pending this final touch, gave glimpse of that which is beyond the gross. So I think the next chapter will be interesting, and this chapter subsequently will talk about the the devil of the touch, right?
Yeah. What else will be
This
there? The sanskaras needs to be fulfilled, right? They need to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
this
but
is
I
a
think
very
this is a
interesting book, really. I
yes.
mean,
Very
I
interesting
thought
book. Yeah.
I read it before, and maybe I have, but I don't remember many of these that we're reading tonight. One of the thing that really took me away, and I'm gonna hopefully it'll stay with me, is Master's imprisonment. I don't know if many Baba lovers know about this, that how Baba first built that crypt-like room, and then the other one next to it, but he was imprisoned himself for what was it, 2.5 months, 2 months, 50
Yeah,
days,
almost 60 days. Yeah, almost. Now we are
almost
in
60
the 50s.
days.
Yeah, 50 plus
Yeah,
days.
was working. He was working. Uh, yeah, he was working. I think that 34, probably 34 lectures that Baba there's a picture of it in
Where he's
here.
talking through the window. Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
what Parks beautifully recreates the feeling and the landscape, how it would be probably at that time. He says that many of these sessions were in the night, and Baba, I mean, it used to be in the morning and in the night, and I think, and it used to be times when Baba is inside the window, like you remembered that photograph
West
where,
window. West
yeah,
window usually.
correct,
West window
correct,
in the.
correct.
Yeah. What is the place called? Pilgrim Center? No.
No, no, no. This is the crypt cabin, the samadhi.
Oh, in Samadhi. No, no, no. In
Yeah,
that building. In that building.
Beginning of
No, in that.
Samadhi.
What is that called?
pilgrim
The
retreat. No, no. This is not the
Pilgrim
tank
Retreat.
building. No, this is not the tank building. This is the crypt building. The
Oh,
samadhi building.
correct.
This is the
Yeah. So
Samadhi now. What Samadhi is. It used to be a crypt, like
I
this.
have
yes.
book right now with me
Same
here.
location, I would say.
Yeah.
Ahem.
So he
One,
is.
And this, and I like to share another thing, guys, and that is, this question came up many, many times, even among Persian. There was this Persian group called Meher and this guy who's a Farshid Narimanian, who is the translator of Esfandiar's talk. He was traveling quite a bit to Myrtle Beach here, there, and he is presenting some chapters of that book. Mostly the question was comment, how in the world this the range of the, I think it's probably from 12 to 16, something like that, their age ranges. How would a 12 to 16-year-old kid could grasp? I mean, it's not an, some part of it is not an easy concept, right?
Yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
when prana nakash is, for example, or crashing and the universe begins and that, stuff like that. So they were just so how is in the world? But here I got the answer. I always, the way I would answer it, I said, I'm pretty sure that those kids were listening not with their mind but with the heart.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
So heart
So,
knows it, and
Another thing is,
that's,
Mahu, another point is these kids are not ordinary kids. They're all very advanced kids. They may be
yeah,
young in age, but very, very advanced souls. That's how
yeah,
Baba picked them. Yeah.
they were actually this Standiar Vesoli that was with us, and when I mean, he didn't disclose it to us. I heard about one of his caretakers. He's got several caretakers. That when he went to Baba's Meher Ashram, when he went to India first, he was already on a third plane of consciousness. So
oh,
throughout
Wow.
all this time, and what Baba taught them, how to love him and how to love him through meditation and single focus on Baba and all that. He did it more than full time. There's very good many stories that we can talk about that later. And
Mm.
so Baba helped him, took him all the way from third plane. And when we met him in LA, to all the
Mm.
end of his life, he was already in sixth plane.
Wow.
So
He,
yeah, so yeah, I
wow.
mean, it wasn't
Wow.
that Baba
It's very
only just
interesting
took,
to know that. Very, very interesting.
yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Baba told him, you have only one more
Okay.
life that
Oh,
comes
I
back
see.
as, yeah, as, and then merges. So yeah, I mean, but I did notice, and I think that Baba wanted to show us how to love him, how to really,
Yeah.
in practical matters. He
No, not
was
just that. I
watching.
think he
Hmm,
was doing something like I'm quoting again loosely or not verbatim, Park's words. Uh,
hmm,
Again, if you look back at the timeline of when this is happening, uh, Baba had not used the word avatar to describe himself, and publicly, obviously, that's far away. He had not really got the huge following even within India at this time. So
yes,
he was actually trying to do something very, very special and profound, more as a microcosm or a test case of something larger, right? So probably he selected these bunch of kids and exposed them to the greatest secrets through the heart, like you rightly said, Mahu. And
yeah,
it was an attempt of trying to do something before he did something at scale, at larger, for larger impact, right? Because this was a select few, but then he's going to do probably the same thing with a lot more, something to that effect. But heart is key, and then profound change led by master, literally overnight, is the theme.
yeah, and as it mentioned about Ali earlier, that You said an explicit obedience.
Yes.
It just whatever, however, Baba was playing with him, like playing hide and seek. I usually done that to many people, and the guy was in total surrendering. The only way I can see it is, I mean, Baba being God, he himself is love, I mean, divine love, and we don't even know what that is till we really experience it. But in words, we just talk about it. That power is so strong and fulfilling and blessing that he forget about everything else. Just being in a
Mm.
close proximity of the master, even if the master don't talk to him or ignore him or don't touch him or whatnot, or call him 22 times and then bring him back and forth, still is the master's. So
Yeah.
that's how I say. Oh, another thing I'm trying, I do have a PDF. Maybe you can tell me which page it was that I got it here that Ramjoo actually said it. He said it was in the bottom of one of the pages that we just read. He said, although he was giving these lectures of creation and its causes, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
It was in that area. But in the evening, he was giving them, I mean, I'm just giving my understanding, so
Yeah,
much love
yeah,
to these
yeah,
boys. And he said, I'm going to make you a Vivekananda
yeah.
or something.
Vivekanandas. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yes, it was lectures, 34 lectures from that crypt like room and whatnot, but in the evening Baba would just enwrap it into so much love and all those good promises that these kids, bang bang bang, they would get it. So that's
Yeah.
another
So
answer
here it
if
is.
anybody asks us.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
end of the every discourse, it was all about love. So this is what you're
Love.
referring to. Love me
Yeah,
and you will find me. I'm ready to make you Vivekanandas and Ram Tirthas, Alis and Arjuns. But
yeah,
the only price asked for is love. Spirituality
Mm.
is offered as a loot. Love alone will get the lion's share. Divinity
yeah.
is being auctioned. Make the highest bid with all the love that you can create and command.
How
Such was
beautifully.
the, yeah, beautiful. Such was
What
the
page is
gist.
that? Oh, now I got it. I got
16,
it.
16, yeah, 15 and
Yeah,
16. So
I got it.
starts
I
at
have the,
15 and
yeah,
it goes on.
beautiful. No, it's actually, it starts from, but you're right, there's not no. But end of
Yeah.
15 is,
Uh-huh.
so as far as this creation concerns, this narrative was the master inimitable tact in creating the moral of love out all the way to 16, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, very
All right.
beautiful.
We
All
are
right.
well out of time and we closed with a chapter. So we will look forward to continuing this journey and knowing more about Ali's experience next Saturday. Tomorrow
Yeah.
we do discourses. So we will
Where in
catch up.
these courses we are? I'm sorry, I missed it last
Yeah, so we
week because
finished.
my students,
We had a
a
very
lot of
interesting. We had a very
Christmas
very
party.
interesting discussion last time. We
Uh-huh.
did probably about 3 pages, but we went into great depth on God and the individual and finished the chapter. So next we are continuing on. I'll tell you the. So it's going to be, yeah, it's perfection.
Oh, very
Yeah,
nice.
the chapter
That's very
perfection. Yeah, that's
useful.
a
Yeah,
beautiful chapter. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
So
God willing, I'll attend tomorrow night. I don't have anything planned or we're not invited anywhere. So, it's the nighttime in my time, and then there's all this happening, Christmas party, this, that. I try not to go to any of them unless if I have to, you know.
okay, okay. All right.
Anyway,
Have a good one.
well,
Insha Baba, we We see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Jai Baba.
Bye.
Avatar
Jai
Meher
Baba.
Baba ki jai.
Baba ki jai.